Raghunath, are you ready for this?
What?
The wisdom of the sages trainings that are going on.
Where?
At the Eco Village, the Govardhan Eco Village in India.
Why?
To totally transform your life spiritually.
Who?
You, me, Radha Swami's going to be there. Other great teachers are going to be there. Lots of cool people.
How?
You go to wisdomofthesages.com/events. You find all the information there.
Haribo.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Live from Super Soul Farm, this is Wisdom of the Sages, a daily yoga podcast with your host, Raghunath, and co-host and senior educator at the Bhakti Center in New York, Coach Steve Das. Welcome to the show, everybody. Welcome to Super Soul. We have a whole crew of live today. Whoa, say hi, everybody. Yes, Harry Bowl.
How many people?
I think there's going to be, I don't know, 25 or something, 30 people. And we start the retreat this weekend with me and Yogeshwari Cindy Lunsford for our Bhakti Vinyas extravaganza. And, it's one of those things you notice when that full moon leaves, the weather shifts. You've noticed that? The full moon.
You're in tune with nature, Ragnar. You're not like the rest of us. We're just kind of like.
No, and I'm listening for birds. And you know what was else crazy last night? Welcome to upstate New York. 10 o'clock at night. All the coyotes started howling like a blood. Anybody hear that last night? That was like a blood curdling howling. Like, and it went on for like 15 minutes. And me and Tarun woke up in bed like, and I sent the other kids out to check on the sheep. But usually that's the sound.
Hold it. There are wild coyotes and jackals around, and you send your kids out to take care of the sheep, Raghu?
Yeah, you got to send the kids out,
All right.
But usually it's the sound after they get some kill and bring it back to the den. Those are all the baby pups. Yep, it's just another ordinary day in the farm.
Okay.
And so Mara's on vacation today. If you're missing Mara, she's not actually. It's not a vacation. She's at a good friend's funeral. Died unexpectedly, so she's out.
A good friend of hers.
Good friend of hers when she lived in Austin.
Okay.
I passed away, so we offer our condolences to her family. Yeah, it's it was her good friend that died, and 2 weeks before that, her mother died. So it's just like sometimes, like just
not married, but the person's.
The person's mother who died, and so it's one of those things. Sometimes the material world just like gives you a double slap, like slaps you once and slaps you, backhands you with the first slap. And it's all heartbreaking. And this is sort of like the necessity why the spiritual stuff we talk about on a regular basis has to be applied to our existence, or else it just seems like, well, why is the world so cruel to me? Why do we live in such a cruel place? And there's nothing left except to become bitter or to become realized. To become bitter or to become realized. And that's what we're going. We're shooting for self-realization. Here on the show. And if you're new to the show, welcome. There's always more people coming. Matter of fact, just yesterday I dropped off my son at the Montessori school. It's like when you send emails to people and you leave your like web address at the bottom. Two of the teachers were like, "Oh, this is a yoga thing," and they Google you or they find you and they're like, "Oh, you do a trip to India? I want to go to India, or I want to go to Nepal," or stuff like that. It's just so funny. I'm already. I said you should come to Kirtan Saturday night.
Okay.
We're gonna see.
Now,
It's
I got a feeling you are, without Mara in the mixer, you are just ready to squirrel the whole show away. I think you just got your microphone. You're just sharing whatever's going on. And you're like, all right.
Okay.
So, are there announcements to make, Raghunath?
Are there announcements? I don't know any. She didn't.
I don't know any.
I don't know. Without Mara, she didn't leave me with any of the announcement download. Okay. But
yeah.
I will say, we are going to India, you and me, and Mara, and we're going to do our 300-hour teacher training. That's going on. Go to my website, raghunath.yoga.
You put
Or
out
the
a little
wisdom of the
video
sages.
yesterday about it, right? I did.
Well,
You
yes,
collaborated on it.
yes,
right?
we collaborated on the video. And our wisdom training is up. That starts, I think, on the 14th in India at the beautiful Govardhan Eco Village. And if you want to come to that in the Kirtan Academy, that's happening right before it, the Kirtan Academy with myself and Seth Lieberman. Really excited just to be in India with our old crew again. We haven't been there since the pandemic, and it's a real game changer. And I'm honored to be part of it. Honored to be there with Radha Swami and all the great souls that show up. Yeah. Yes.
Okay. And then tomorrow is the Sleep-In Saturday and Q&A.
Tomorrow's Q&A day. Yeah.
And we got to figure out what we're doing on Sunday.
I don't think we're doing it on Sunday. I think we're taking a day off Sunday.
Okay. That's news to me.
I forgot to mention that to you.
Okay. We'll confirm that tomorrow.
Yes.
Okay.
But for now, let's get into our nugget.
We're wrapping up the week here. I'm going to try to pronounce his name.
Johann Wolfgang von Goethe.
It's different every day around here. Okay.
Hey, guess who's coming to visit me in a couple weeks? Drew Lawrence.
No kidding.
One of our favorite astrologers.
Coming out to the farm to visit?
Coming up to the farm. He's doing some programs and doing some astrology.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay. That's a squirrel.
Okay.
Let's skip.
It's a squirrel. Yes. Okay. Here's the quote. Every day we should hear at least one little song, read one good poem, and see one exquisite picture. And if possible, speak a few sensible words.
If possible, we try. Right?
I feel like we got all our bases covered. I feel like I got all our, right? Hear one little song. The whole Bhagavad Gita, the Bhagavatam's a song.
Yeah.
I mean, we're reading it like we're reading a story, but it's all in perfect prose, Sanskrit prose. So there's our poem. We see one exquisite picture. If you're holding the actual Bhagavatam itself, exquisite stuff. You know, we're really into, and when I say we're, I mean you and me. But we're into like the art that you keep in your house. It has to affect the consciousness. You know, because we see these visuals every day. It's the food we eat, the sounds we hear, and the things we see on a regular basis starts to create the mind.
Yeah, and that's, as I say, and the fact that it says every day is significant.
Every day.
Right.
Through my Bhagavatam every day. And then see one exquisite picture, and if possible, speak a few sensible words. So that's what we're doing with the Bhagavatam. We're hearing sensible words. And then when you hear sensible words, what happens? It starts to flow out of the mouth. Because what flows out of my mouth, and sometimes I'm guilty of this too. Sometimes I'll consume so much nonsense that just nonsense will flow out of my mouth. And because I tend to have a big mouth, I got to be very, very careful of what I put in my ears. What I put in my ears is completely responsible for what flows out of my mouth. What I find, Kastuba, is I become a better man when on my downtime, I'm putting wisdom info in my brain. Meaning when I'm in a car, I'm picking up the kids, when I'm driving around, when I'm doing something around the house, even when I'm working out or something, if I have some wisdom info, lectures, etc., narrations of books or something, when I put that in on my downtime, that affects my on time when things are coming out of my mouth, what's flowing out of my mouth.
For sure.
What do you think about that?
Well, basically he's describing culture here, right? In other words, we're going to see certain things, we're going to hear certain things, we're going to speak certain things. You can add to this. I once heard a nice, it was actually Vera Budger that shared with me. I think he got it from like some kind of Christian group, basically like what develops community. You have to sing together and dance together. You have to tell stories together, and you have to, prepare food and eat food together.
That's what we're doing this weekend. We're doing all those things this weekend.
Yeah. Well, that's that, and so you try to do it, and you try to do it in a nice way. It's like, you try to do it in a way that it cultivates a sense of brotherhood and sisterhood, unity, and you try to do it in such a way where everybody's moving in a positive direction, right? Like, not, in other words, we can get together and do those same things in such a way where we become more confused about the purpose of life.
Sure.
Or we can all get in a path together and move forward together And so these, the beautiful thing about the Bhakti culture is it's so full of rich imagery. It's so rich with, beautiful music, with beautiful stories, with sensible words. There's no lack, it's like we could like, you and I know hundreds of people, that we could just say, hey, let's all just like get together. Like if we all just got stuck in a room, we wouldn't be wondering what to do. It's like you could throw us in a room that's all shut, and we would immediately have stories to tell, and we'd immediately have, you know what I'm saying? It's like
Yeah,
there'd be people there that
that's
would
what we
know how to
do.
cook and cook like incredibly. There'd be great musicians because the whole culture is just like so rich. And even if the musicians weren't great, we would still get into the music together and really enjoy it, because this bhakti is being accessed through this culture, and taking it, from bhakti to go to the more general kind of yogic principle. The idea is that, practice is defined in the Yoga Sutras as, that what you do, which if you do it with the right attitude and the right determination, if you do it something steadily, like very regularly, and if you do it over the course of a long time, it becomes deeply rooted in the consciousness. And so therefore, when he says every day, that means like steadily, right? It's like, it's not you do it a little bit and then you drop it. But this is how yoga is practiced. So if you bring your mind to sensible words like a Bhagavatam, if you bring your mind to deeply spiritual music like kirtan, if you do it every day, it works. It becomes rooted in the consciousness. You begin to transform. The practice because you moves towards perfection.
I'm having some parenting wins lately.
Okay.
Because it was really good that I started my, and maybe a little reluctantly too, I started my son studying mridanga, and then when he goes out and hangs with the Krishna kids, they get along and they have kirtan. Like this summer, they're just having kirtan on the road.
Yeah.
And but in order to really play mridanga, you need to have kirtan. So that encourages us to have like family kirtans. Like, let's sit down and have kirtan. And so because he's a little talented at it, it's almost like when you stink at piano, you don't want to play it. But when you get good at piano, you want to just sit down and start playing by yourself. So, but with mridanga, it's you can sort of play it by yourself. You sort of need a band. You sort of need to get around and sing. So because Moses and Rachel and Mara have been coming over, and it's just sort of like we've just, okay, let's have kirtan. It's just like, yeah, all right, let's sit down and have kirtan. And we just started becoming a lot more regular in the household. And it's such like sort of it's a cultural thing. It's just sort of a bonding thing. It's a family thing,
as well as a deeply spiritual thing.
And it's a deeply spiritual thing. And so so anyway, I feel like that was a dad win. And don't get me wrong, I got a lot of dad fails as well. I got a lot. I got long list.
Does Tarun C. Rocco play mridanga and want to do it himself?
I'm working on Tarun, but he's a work in progress. But he's a lot better. He's been asking me because we sleep together, and he says, he has me sing Nishringadev prayers to him every night, and then he says, "Can we sing some more kirtans before we go to bed?" I thought that was super sweet.
So it's I'd say like American culture, modern American, we're losing touch with this stuff. Families don't sing together.
Well, do you remember the old days when like, like before there was television, there was like a picture of like, the daughter would be playing the piano and the son would be playing the fiddle.
That
and
was life was like that.
And that's what you did in the evening. You get together, you play the fiddle and the piano.
Waltons over here.
Right. and there was something like charming about that. And there was some depth I felt like in some communion with family. But I feel like it's really easy to lose that. I find that when kids have their own devices, you could be sitting right next to the one you love, but you're all in your other world, almost like communicating with someone who's 4,000 miles away, 50 miles away, but you're not commuting with the person like right next to you.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, everybody's, what is the experience of music? Like people are sitting in the different rooms of their house, with their headphones on, like separately.
Right.
Listening to someone else make music in a studio like, 20 years ago or something like that.
Yeah, we created something pretty weird. It's a new phenomenon. It's a little peculiar.
Yeah, or there's like, a limited numbers of musicians that you're interested in, and you pay massive prices to go into a huge arena and hear them make music. But what about in your own home? What about on a daily basis? Shouldn't music be part of your life on a daily basis?
Right. That you are creating or being part of. Yeah.
Yeah, what does it do for yourself to be part of the creation of music, even if you're just singing along? What does it do for you? So I think all these things have healthy psychological, neurological kind of effects. And then what to speak of when it's brought to bhakti or it's brought to Krishna, then yeah, that's the perfection, right?
I think that's one of the takeaways from pilgrimage too, because sometimes we'll have people who are brand new to kirtan but like it, so they buy a harmonium.
Yeah.
And then like they're lugging their harmoniums around with them, and then they're just practicing. And I encourage everybody just like to practice, and I'll give them a little lesson. And some people play a little already. And Lori Pag's here right now, so she knows. Like we go around on pilgrimage, and people are just like singing, and right, they're just singing, doing their thing. And Scott Moss is here this weekend, and we just like we go through these things where people are just singing their own way, however good or polished or unpolished they are. It's just so nice to hear people just sing. Yeah. And Rachel does her puja in the morning, and hear her sing. It's very nice. And it's just like hearing other people just sing from the heart in a very unpretentious way is quite beautiful. And on the message board, by the way, Paige Family Bhakti is writing in. I didn't know that. She's a music teacher. She tells her kids that the more they play, the better they get. Yep.
It's true. It's, the culture does give you all that. Recently, I went to the Broome Street Temple, which is reopened again.
Broome Street Temple is an Ashtanga yoga studio in New York City run by our good friend.
Eddie Stern. But it's also Ganesh Temple. And so I went there for one event, and he was doing his whole puja. I was just there as a like witnessing. I wasn't part of the event. In other words, I wasn't a planned part of the event. And then at one point, Eddie just turned to me and said, "Kastuba, why don't you sing a song now?" I was like, and once for a second, it kind of caught me off guard. I was like, and then I thought, yeah, of course, I know so many songs I can sing. And so I sang a song, in a foreign language, right? And I'm not a great singer or anything like that, but
what foreign language?
In Sanskrit.
Oh. I thought you were like I thought you were like Don me vu, Don me vu. I was like, very good. Just singing in a foreign language. He's got this French.
But the culture gives you that, and I'm not a great singer, but people are coming up. They're kind of moved by the whole thing because it is something to just see someone just start to sing, and
it's part of also bhakti culture too. It's like you become poetic. You become You naturally become cultured without even trying to become cultured. Like it was backwards when I was younger. It was like, you should become cultured. Like for what end? For what end? To impress people at a party?
Right.
Does it give me some depth or some richness? Or I like the idea of there's a reason for culture. And even if you're not like that interested, or maybe you're not the best painter or the best singer or the best, but you have this spirit in you that's doing it for a higher purpose. And therefore, you don't have to be the best singer. We say this all the time. You don't have to be the best singer to lead an incredible kirtan because it's not in the mind. It's not a sonic win. It's from the heart that actually makes a difference.
I'm with you, Raghunath. So I think we got to keep this in mind. The bhakti culture does what Wolfgang was saying there, that every day we should, and let's read it again, right? Every day we should hear at least one little song, right?
Do a little dance.
Make a little love.
Was that where we're going?
Is that where
hear this song. Do a little dance.
Casey.
Tonight. So, they don't make music like that anymore, do they? That's like unique, special stuff from the 70s.
Yeah. So at least one little song. Read one good poem. Right. We got to do that. See one exquisite picture. Speak a few sensible words. Right. Your life should be full of bhakti culture. Right. It's not. This isn't this. That was the incredible thing about us, coming to bhakti. It wasn't just like my early experience. It was definitely philosophically got me interested in it, right? The philosophy. But then like my friends brought me to the Brooklyn Temple for on a Sunday, and there was music and there was dancing, and I remember those are the days like Verkeshwar Pandit leading kirtan. It would be like Verkeshwar Pandit and his whole crew.
Yeah, it was.
It
was so impressive.
It was
like
insane.
5 Mridanga players.
Impressive. Yeah,
because I've been to kirtans like at the Shivananda Yoga Center and at Integral Yoga, and they're all like meditative. You're sitting there and they're chanting, and you know, truthfully, for you know, a 20-year-old, I'm like, boring. Can we get to? I was a little bored. If you want to know the truth.
Okay.
But then you went to that Brooklyn Temple, and there's like these big
Whew.
black guys playing the drums, like beating the drum. It was just
singing
like
I mean, he would sing like it
like
was like an opera
some
singer
type of
was there, just
powerful
like,
angel has
yeah,
landed, you know,
it
and
was
just sing and
crazy.
yeah.
And everybody dancing with, and my friends were all from the hardcore scene. I like serious guys from the hardcore scene, and they were all like dancing with the same enthusiasm
As
as
a
they
hardcore show.
would mosh. They were dancing here, but like everyone was happy and like smiling. And then you'd be totally exhausted, right, after dancing and singing the kirtan, and then you'd sit down, and then you'd sing the Nrsimhadev prayers. And what was his name? Oh, I can't think.
Rati.
No, not Rati. Although he's there, which starts with an L. Lochanananda. Lochanananda Prabhu would sing, and he sings like he's like at a whole nother mood. Like Verkesh was like this power guy, and Lochanananda was like, he would just sing just very beautifully. You know, and you'd feel like you're just floating in heaven. Everybody's, you know how like after you work out, like you get, there's a certain glow and a certain kind of like
right,
a certain type of ecstasy everybody's kind of feeling. You're sitting there, you're tired, but you're feeling like excited and energized. And then he would sing that heavenly, the Nrsimha prayers, in just the most beautiful, you know, celestial music, you know, playing a harmonium, like this instrument you've never seen before. It was life-changing. You know, what a culture, what a beautiful culture.
And there's also the culture of cooking.
It's a very
where there was like just foods and tastes and herbs.
Yeah,
it's why people went to India in the first place, looking for herbs, looking for spices.
Yeah.
Spices. I guess not herbs, but maybe herbs too. I guess that herbs a spice. Yeah.
You can turn. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And that, so then, right then, I'd be, you know, me and my friends, we'd all be like, you know, happily exhausted and blown away by this whole thing. And then you'd hear some philosophy, right? Then there'd be a class, and the whole class was like, man, this makes so much sense. You know, like the whole thing would just be tying together. And then came the food, you know, and the food was just absolutely, you know, off the charts.
Yeah.
You know, delicious food cooked by people that were deeply spiritual, that were doing it as a service, you know, as a service to God, as a service to humanity. Those were life-changing. That whole culture, you know, somehow we got to find a way to bring that culture to everyone.
We're doing it, man. This is
it.
But
I'm saying that the people that are like a little bit more, you know, isolated from the whole thing, to be able to have that whole experience. That's why you got to come to India, right?
Yeah.
You know what I was thinking? I was thinking that in the past, in the past retreats that we've done at Super Soul, you know, we had the thing where everybody's like, when it comes to the food, everybody like lines up and, you know, more like cafeteria style. And then this past one, because Bhakti came up and she taught the whole how to serve out in the traditional way, and everybody was so getting off on it so much that we continued it the next week, and you and I were serving out the prasad, and everyone was sitting down.
I really like doing it like that.
And
it's getting a little cooler now, though, so it's hard to sit on the floor. But
we got to find a way. But my point is this: I was thinking that when we go to India this year, we ought to do that.
Oh, that's nice.
Right.
That's nice.
And maybe just, and even the prasadam could be simpler. Like they've been laying out a whole smorgasbord, but it can be like a more like a you know, a standard rice dal chapati kind of thing.
It never gets old.
A little vegetable.
It never gets old. Rice dal. It never gets. Chapatis.
Yeah, and you mix the vegetable up every day, and we'll serve it out like that. Maybe, you know, like in that yoga.
I like how you're thinking.
Right.
I like how you're thinking.
Let people experience that feeling. You know.
Okay, I'm going to scroll you before we get to the Bhagavatam. Hey, check this out. Did you hear that now that the queen has left her body,
the jewels? I know
they're
about the
trying
jewels,
to get the jewels back to India. What do you think about that? They're trying to get the jewels back to India.
Yeah, you know,
when does it end? Though? When does it end?
Well, the latest thing that I heard is that those jewels, India is saying, "Well, you stole them from us," but like other people saying, "Well, you stole them too." You know, like
well, the Kohinoor de Noor, well, the Hope Diamond is from India.
Are you sure? Or was that stolen from
the Persians got it from India,
like that. But where did India get it from? That's my point.
India, they would go in the rivers. They'd get diamonds from rivers. They wouldn't even
saw
mine.
something that was saying that was giving another story. So.
Well, it's like, so where does it end? Where does it end?
Yeah,
you got to give them back to the earth.
The point is, if it was given to the deity, then you got to give it back.
Give it to the deity.
Your country's just going to suffer, right?
I know.
Yeah.
All right. They were given to the deity.
Bring them back then.
The
Then I
corded
say bring
word.
them back.
Bring them back. Bring them back. They know it's not like we use them.
Well, they're in
back
the
to
crown.
the deity. The deity uses them on a regular basis.
All right. Anyway,
All right.
culture, Raghunath, every day we need it.
Yeah.
We're living without it, life becomes very
banal, vapid.
We're just waiting. Yeah, it becomes, and you lose heart, you lose touch. You know, it becomes depressing. But I tell you something, Raghunath. Another thing, and I may have shared this with you before.
Boy.
Well, it's squirrel, but why not talk about this, right? The element, the cultural element in bhakti. How important is it? This isn't just yogic philosophy. It's an entire culture, and that culture is what makes it possible for us to transform. Right? The philosophy is enough to say, I need to absorb myself in this culture, right? And it's the culture that's transforming us, you know. And I think I shared this with you before, but one time also at Eddie Stern's place, Eddie Stern did kind of like a weekend seminar thing with, he brought over A.G. Mohan, right?
Ooh.
Who was a very interesting character, and the two of us kind of clicked, along with his wife, you know, like because he's coming from that Vaishnava background, right? He's from South India. He served Krishnamacharya, you know, in his last 20 years, right?
He took private lessons with Krishnamacharya like 5 days a week. He and his wife
for like the last 20 years.
20 years or 30 years.
He lived to be 100, was it, or something like that?
Krishnamacharya, I'm not sure.
Yeah. And so he and I clicked immediately. And I invited him. That was the weekend of the New York Ratha Yatra. He couldn't attend it because he was doing this retreat. But on the Sunday, I brought him to the Brooklyn Temple. And the Sunday after the New York Ratha Yatra in the Brooklyn Temple.
He loses his mind.
Well, it's a mind blower because it's totally packed with probably
the best
like
kirtaniers in the world show up there.
Let me describe, right? I took him up to the balcony. Right, you know, there's that balcony that looks down. I somehow got him up into the balcony, and we're looking down, and there's it's maybe 1,000 people, something like that, maybe more, 1,200. I'm not sure how many people it is. It's a lot of people. It's jam packed. Yeah. You have especially there's a lot of second generation devotees there, right? People born into this practice. They're young. They're beautiful, right? It's like they all look like angels. The girls are absolutely beautiful and dressed like just decked out, like incredible. You know, the young men, they're handsome, they're talented. You know, everybody's dancing beautifully. They're doing kirtan. Gorvani's leading kirtan, and it's like, and 1,000 people chanting. You know, just like just and dancing back and forth, spinning around. You know, after just this incredible kirtan. Then they did a drama of Mahabharata, right? And it's like African American people, like Hispanic people. It's like New Yorkers, right? It's like it was like this whole cultural, mixing melting pot, doing the Mahabharata,
and it really is a melting pot. Because sometimes I'll say it's a melting pot, but people stay in their clusters.
It melts.
You know what I mean? But when you come together like this with spirit as the center, you actually melt and merge into one. Delicious stew of mixed
and here's my point is that A.G. Mohan and his wife Indra, they're coming from the deep South Indian culture, like Vedic culture, Hindu culture, whatever you want to call it. Like they're deeply immersed in it, right? Deeply. And they saw that, and it was like literally like jaw dropping from they looked at me like with amazement in their eyes.
Right. They didn't like, wow.
And they haven't already had an appreciation for ISKCON, right? For the Hare Krishna movement, because they would sometimes visit the ISKCON temple in Chennai, where they're from. Yeah. But of course in Chennai they're seeing, all Indian people. And they knew that this had spread to the West and it was popularized in the West by Srila Prabhupada and so on. But when they actually saw that, they turned to me and they said, and this is what he said. He said, "You don't see this type of devotion in the temples in India." Right? He was so blown away by it. He was like, he was like, yeah, you go to the temple and you say your prayer and you ask what you don't. It was like the spiritual world manifesting in that place.
Yeah.
And he was glorifying Srila Prabhupada, like at length, saying, I never expected in my life that I would see something like this. It
Wow.
totally blew him away, right? So you can see how powerful that culture is. It's like Srila Prabhupada was so, I was thinking here we have Wolfgang saying that you should see one exquisite picture, right? You need to take your eyes and take in a beautiful vision, like a picture. And Prabhupada was so smart that he actually, created a whole art department to create paintings for his books. What other of these, like Swamis or whatever did that? None of them did that. He actually understood that if these people are going to transform, they need to see, they need to be able to see this, and because where that takes the imagination, where it takes the mind, he knew that was an important part of their developing this. But that culture is just so powerful.
You need the entire culture, and because people desire it anyway, so they just create their own culture. As life gets on, and Kali Yuga marches forward, culture just becomes, we get our face on our phones, we get our face on Netflix, and we lost out on actually these rich parts of life, or it becomes sort of like slightly degraded culture.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's sort of like the resurrection of uplifting culture.
You know what, Raghunath? I just realized that the verse that we're going to get in today is going to tie into this.
It's all about this.
Well, there's a connection. Why don't we get into it?
Narayanam namaskritya naram chaiva narotamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayam madirayat. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is our very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisances to the Supreme Lord Narayan, unto Narayan Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and to Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Nasta prayesha badreshu nityam bhagavat sevaya bhagavati utama shloke bhaktir bhavati naishtaki. By regular attendance in classes on the Bhagavatam and by rendering service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart will become eradicated. And loving service to the Supreme Lord, who is praised with transcendental songs, will be established as an irrevocable fact. Om Jnana Timarandasya Jnananjana Salakaya Chaksurun Medadam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkness of ignorance. My teachers are opening my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my obeisances at their lotus feet. So reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, fourth canto, chapter 25, text 7-ish.
No. I mean, I suppose relatively close, but
in the ballpark.
We're on 13.
13, okay.
Yeah. So Narada has begun his allegorical tale.
Yes,
speaking
that's right.
to King Paranjana, speaking to King Prachini Barishat, speaking about this king who was feeling dissatisfaction. He's wandering all over looking for sense enjoyment, traveling around the world. In text 12 said, consequently, he traveled all over the world to find a place where all his desires could be fulfilled. Unfortunately, he found a feeling of insufficiency everywhere. Okay. So now he's going to, interesting stuff starts to happen. I don't think we'll get too into it today, but let's go ahead and read texts 13. And I think it's the commentary to this verse. Let me just make sure. Yeah, it's the commentary to this verse I think will become quite relevant.
13. Once while wandering in this way, he saw on the southern side of the Himalayas, in a place named Bharatvarsh, that's the name of India, a city that had 9 gates all about, and a city that had 9 gates all about, and was characterized by all auspicious facilities.
Okay.
So here comes the analogy.
Yeah. The city with 9 gates.
Yeah. Do we tell?
Do we get into that right now?
Do we tell them the spoiler right now? The body is the city of 9 gates.
Yeah, in one sense, we got to figure out what we're going to do, because the way that this works, this chapter gives a long list, and it's all, like about 40 different points in the analogy or something like that, right? And in the commentaries, Prabhupada explains what they all represent. But then in the next chapter, King Prachini Barisha turns to Narada and says, "Can you explain what each of these things represent?" So you kind of like double the thing, but in any case, beginning with the city of 9 gates, that represents the human body, right? 2 eyes, 2 ears, et cetera, et cetera. But what he mentions here about Bharatavarsha is interesting, and about India. And in this commentary, Prabhupada speaks about India, and he speaks about the West. And he goes back to he uses an analogy, or you could say a certain type of logic. And this really becomes a large part of what Prabhupada did, what his mission was. And I think really what kind of our mission continues to be. Let me just read a bit from it.
Please.
Prabhupada says, even at the present time, as we travel all over the world, we see that in some countries, human beings have many material facilities, but no facilities for spiritual advancement. Interesting. When Prabhupada came to the Western world, he saw the churches and he saw that they were largely empty. Right.
Big, beautiful churches.
It struck him. Yeah.
Like on almost every other block in New York City.
Yeah.
And empty.
Not so well attended, you know. And you know, in India, you know, you go to the temple every day. In the West, you go to the church like once a week, and it sits empty the whole rest of the week. And then even now on Sundays, it's like a lot of these churches, there's just not much happening.
You got to go to the South to fill those churches.
Yeah. And then when Srila Prabhupada
Texas packed.
Or they got those arenas, right?
Arena churches.
And then when he would look at like a university, wherein, you know, in the past in India, like the education and the spirituality were like closely aligned. He saw that they were like completely separated, right? So he used to say, like at Harvard University, MIT, where's the department for studying what's the difference between a dead body and a living body? Right,
yeah,
meaning like
they don't have that course at MIT.
Yeah. I mean, you know, I suppose now they talk more about consciousness than they did right then. But Prabhupada was kind of like
cutting edge.
He was cutting edge in that sense. What about consciousness? Are you looking at this? Are you thinking about this? You know, where does it come from? So he was, you know, he was saying, where's the facility for spiritual advancement? He's looking around saying, you got incredible material advancement, but where's the spiritual advancement? And you know, you could imagine coming to the West from India, especially in, you know, back then. It would be like, whoa, there's facility here like I've never seen in my life. Prabhupada was 69, 70 years old when he arrived, right?
Right.
And so then he's looking at this and he's seeing, you know, New York City compared to, you know, where he'd been in India. It was like, especially the divide at that point would have been quite drastic. So he says, we find everywhere the defects of one-sided facilities and a lack of full facilities. So what does he mean one-sided? He's saying, you know, okay, you've got spiritual but no material. Like India's spiritual, but lacking on the material level, and the West was like materially, you know, there, but lacking on the spiritual. So then he goes to this famous analogy: a blind man can walk but not see, and a lame man cannot walk but can see. Following the logic called Anda Pangu Nyaya.
Andu Pangu Nyaya.
Yeah. So Nyaya means the logic. Pangu means the lame person, and Anda means the blind person.
And we mean lame in the old school way, like they can't walk, not like you're so lame.
Right.
The cool person and the lame person.
So following the logic of the Anda Pangu Nyaya, the blind man may take the lame man over his shoulders. And as the blind man walks, the lame man may give him directions. Thus combined, they may walk. But individually, neither the blind man nor the lame man.
Yes. Can I order and give you my code after?
Do I know how to do this,
Right.
Melinda?
I know how to
Can
do
I
it.
have a large Diet Coke with light ice,
Hold it,
a bottle of water,
Melinda, we
and
hear you.
a blueberry muffin?
Somehow Melinda's unmuted.
Oh, she's
All right.
muted now. There we go.
We got it. Anybody hear that, or is that me?
No, I heard it. I heard it. Okay. So what were we saying? What was I even talking about?
Something about a Diet Coke with ice. A lame man drank a Diet Coke, or something like that.
Okay. Anyway, I'll go back to reading it. I'll read what Prabhupada said and it'll probably come back to me. Following the logic of the Andapanga Nyaya, the blind man may take the lame man over his shoulders. And as the blind man walks, the lame man may give him directions. Thus combined, they may walk. But individually, neither the blind man nor the lame man can walk successfully. Okay. So Prabhupada says, similarly, this human form of life is meant for the advancement of spiritual life and for keeping the material necessities in order. Okay, so that's interesting, right? Prabhupada said two things, right? He said it's for advancement of spiritual life and for keeping the material necessities in order, right? He's not saying keeping the material necessities like it's all about the material necessities, but he's saying they got to be kept in order because ultimately the spiritual side is what we're trying to develop. And when the material necessities are in order, it tends to make it easier to facilitate that. Okay. Especially in Western countries, there are ample facilities for material comforts. but no one has any idea of spiritual advancement. Now, in thinking of the way that Srila Prabhupada was looking around and seeing things, right? Listen to this. He says, many are hankering after spiritual advancement, but many cheaters come, take advantage of the money, bluff them, and go away. Right? And we see that, right? And that's what kills, people's faith, right? We see it, you see it in religious institutions. You see it like, you see it in the Christian churches. But even then, Prabhupada was seeing people coming from India and doing it, right?
When we were young, yoga was weird, or sometimes they'd have these like metaphysical book fair or something like that in New York City, and it'd be like weird
people,
the reincarnation, and it's just people like the woo-woos of New York City. And at that time, it was really woo-woo. You had to be really out there. I mean, if you think about India, metaphysical book fair in India, like no one would come. Like this is just like built into, the reality there. That of course, reincarnation. What do you think? We're just here for a moment, of course.
Oh yeah, I think I know what I was saying before. And by the way, Melinda, no problem. She's apologizing on the chat board.
Sort of cute to dive into Melinda's life there for a moment.
So, but the spiritual and the like if you took an educational institution in India, there are spiritual kind of teachings kind of built into it, almost tied into it all, like difficult to separate the two, in India, if you're going back, to Prabhupada's time, whereas you come to the Western world and it's like they're very consciously divided.
Right.
So he's looking around. He's saying, "Hold it! They've separated their spirituality from from their education.
Yeah.
It's like he's seeing it as something different and potentially problematic." Okay, so Prabhupada goes on. He says, "At the present moment, India may be compared to the lame man, and the Western countries to the blind man. For the past 2,000 years, India has been subject." Now, this is Prabhupada gets a little historical here, right? For the past 2,000 years, India has been subjugated by the rule of foreigners, and the legs of progress have been broken.
Ooh.
All right, so he's saying, it was because of foreign rule that India is, like, you want to look around and say India is lame now. It was because of the oppressive foreign rule. He says, so for the past 2,000 years, India has been subjugated by the rule of foreigners, and the legs of progress have been broken. In the Western countries, the eyes of people have become blind. What is it due to? Due to the dazzling glitter of material opulence.
The dazzling glitter of material opulence. Great phrase.
Right. Yeah. What does that remind you of? Any Bhagavad Gita verses?
Yahi Shamsparsha Jag. No, Bogeshvaya Prashaktinam Taya Parita Shetasam Vivasyatmika Budhir.
Samadha
no vidhiyate. You can't get samadha. You can't get samadhi if you are attracted to boga and aishvarya, means material enjoyment and like great opulence. If those are the things that are like, then it's just like you can't have focused determination and bhakti because the material world still owns you.
Yeah, you begin to rationalize your material desires, and you get totally absorbed in it, right?
Yeah.
And then it just kind of like breaks down your ability to see the truth, right?
Yeah.
Your intelligence gets kind of like misapplied, misused. So now you're using it just to like go after what you've been bedazzled by,
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
In the minds of those, this is Bhagavad Gita 244. In the minds of those who are too attached to sense enjoyment and material opulence, and who are bewildered by such things, the resolute determination for devotional service, samadhi, does not take place.
In the minds of those who are too attracted to material opulence and are bewildered by such things, they're bewildered. They're attached to them and they're bewildered by them.
Yeah.
The resolute determination for bhakti does not take place.
So Prabhupada's saying that's what was going on in the Western world. While the India was kind of made lame through foreign rule, and through that colonization, you gain wealth, right? You begin to take the wealth from all, like, I was in Rome recently, and when you look around there, it's so mind blowing what was created there. You realize, they had to take wealth from all over the place to build this city,
Yeah.
And so then you get that opulence, and then you become bewildered by it. So he says in the Western countries, the eyes of people have become blind due to the dazzling glitter of material opulence. The blind man, yeah.
I was just thinking that's why like renunciation is, you'll hear it encouraged on spiritual practice. Not because like it makes you spiritual renunciation, but it helps you sort of try to like find your pleasure without it, which is very accessible. Find your pleasure, like Justin and his girlfriend here this weekend, and they were like, we have this nice yogi house here, and they're like, no, we want to camp out. We've been camping out for whatever 15 days. We're just going to camp. And they're out there with the coyotes howling, and like they thought they were like lunch for the coyotes. But the fact is, like you get like there's a pleasurable taste from renunciation of, I don't want the bed. I'm just going to sleep on the ground tonight. I don't want the hot water because the hot water went out this morning. We're going to take a cold shower. So there is a joy that comes from it. It's different than an indulgent joy. There is like a pleasure in an indulgence, but there's also a pleasure and a joy of renunciation. You'll see this throughout different yoga systems or spiritual paths. A letting go of that external pleasure to find some like inner connection.
It said that austerity is the wealth of the brahmanas, right?
Sure. Yeah.
The wise people, they in that simplicity, the mind just becomes more lucid, and you feel good. All
right. You know what I did not do, Kasuba?
Takeaways. I wrote.
Yeah, I didn't do takeaways.
Well, no. You don't have to. I just put it up there. Now people are gonna populate.
You're doing that.
Well, I don't know. I just thought of it, so I put that up on the chat board. Nobody's responded yet.
We should have brought in Freya Rooney to do the takeaways today, or someone like Martine, somebody. Anyway, we need some takeaways. Put them up on the board, people. We're gonna sound real stupid in a moment.
Okay. So you were making a good point. Is that actually when you practice austerity, when you practice simplicity, the mind becomes more lucid, and it's kind of like a relief. It's kind of like refreshing, it's refreshing to the mind. It's even refreshing to the body and to the senses, like simplicity. And then you begin to see life clearly. So it's saying the blind man of the West. So Prabhupada just said, in the Western countries, the eyes of people have become blind due to the dazzling glitter of material opulence. The blind man of the Western countries and the lame man of India should combine together. You with me, Raghunath?
Yeah.
They should combine together. And Prabhupada says, in this Krishna consciousness movement, which is an interesting thing, Because what does Prabhupada mean there specifically when he says that? I mean, I think he could be saying like, technically the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. And I think he can be speaking more broadly too, right? Like saying, in other words, we all need to kind of reconnect with our divine source, right? In a more general sense. And we can all cooperate towards that. He says, then the lame man of India can walk with the help of the Westerner, and the blind Westerner can see with the help of the lame man. In short, the material advancement of the Western countries and the spiritual assets of India should combine for the elevation of all human society. Boom. Like that?
I love it.
It's a good plan, I think, huh?
All right. Any takeaways today?
I see you are totally absorbed in the takeaways. Like as soon as takeaways, just you were gone from that point on. It's like, yeah. Okay. Well, you're gonna have to read them, Raghunath.
All right. Let's see. I like this. Here's some takeaways here. At Narayani. What does that mean? Oh, that's not a takeaway. That's just at Narayani. Okay. Takeaways. Austerity is the wealth of the brahmanas.
Boom. There's one right there.
That's a good one right there. Glitter is bitter.
Oh, nice. Who's that?
Very nice. That's Vivek G.
No, glitter is bitter. I like it.
Yeah, glitter is bitter. Don't be lame. That was one of mine. Don't be lame.
That works.
Okay.
Give the jewels back.
Samadhi is resolute determination for bhakti.
Okay.
You want to know what samadhi is? A resolute determination for bhakti. How about don't get bewildered?
Sure, why not?
Whatever. Give the jewels back.
Give them back.
Fill your life with bhakti culture.
Nice. We talked a lot about that.
Spiritual transformation comes through our senses and the culture. Access through bhakti culture. Access through bhakti culture. Okay, that's good.
It's not a mug, but
it's Michelle Andre. It's not a t-shirt, Michelle, but it's good. And Jim Wood says, high and healthy culture naturally comes from a symptom of spiritual culture.
Okay.
High and healthy culture. Okay. Play music with your family.
I like that.
Oh, that's a good one.
Sing a song.
East west. Okay. East meets west, hand in hand. Ah,
How about
that's from Chief Hag. Make Mara come back again. How about that one?
okay?
That's all we got.
That's it. Okay. How about
all right?
Play a little song, do a little dance.
Get down tonight. Woo! Get down tonight. Thanks everybody for joining us. We did it. We made it through without Mara. She'll be back soon. I'm not sure when.
Supposed to be back tomorrow, I think. I think that's what she said. But
Jenna Hawkins, welcome to the show. I'm waving to people I haven't seen yet.
Raghunath.
Yeah.
Will she be different when she comes back?
What do you mean?
What do you think? I don't know. She may change.
Why?
Because she's just why? Because she's been exposed to a whole new world, Raghunath.
Who, Mara?
Yeah.
She
may come back different. You don't know.
What world? She's going to a funeral.
She's going to Texas.
Texas is great.
All right. Maybe different though. That's what I'm saying.
Maybe.
She may have like a cowboy hat on.
Oh, maybe.
You know, she may be talking a little different, a little drawl.
Sure.
May have taken up different attitudes in life.
Yeah. They're very welcoming people. We got a lot of Texas Zoomers here.
Okay.
Urgayadas, good to see you, my brother. Ananta Devi Health Coaching. Welcome back. And Board and Brush, Allentown. What do you think that is? Board and Brush.
Board and Brush, Allentown. Board and Brush.
I know. Like... They take care of dogs. Dogs.
They board them and they brush them.
Kristen Ryder, Kirtan this weekend. Amitchi, DJ, Vegan Trucker, Muddy Jose Nava, Nadia, Krishna Chaitanya, Das, Miranda. Oh, boy. Thanks, everybody, for joining us. I got to get on it today. I have a satsang right now, and I got to get some breakfast for the kiddies. We'll see it. What? Siri just said, you're welcome. Thank you, people. It's a beautiful day for a beautiful day. Let the magic continue. Everybody say goodbye, live. Whoop. Thanks, everybody.